There are beaches in the Caribbean where the loudest sound you hear is the hush of waves sliding across soft sand, where the day drifts gently from morning into afternoon without urgency or interruption. There are beaches where palm trees sway in the trade winds and fishing boats rest quietly along the horizon, where the only sound above the rhythm of the sea is children chasing the tide. There are beaches where sunset arrives almost shyly, while steel drums hum somewhere behind you, and the world seems to soften at the edges. And then there is Maho Beach. Here the sea still glows in impossible shades of turquoise. The sand still warms beneath bare feet. The trade winds still carry the scent of sea salt and sunscreen, and the sweetness of rum punch from the bar just steps away. At first glance, it feels like every postcard promise the Caribbean has ever made. But at Maho Beach, the sky does not whisper, it roars. To understand why aircraft pass so low over Maho Beach, it helps to step back from the romance of the moment and consider the mechanics behind it. Princess Juliana International Airport was built with a runway measuring just over 7,500 feet. For modern commercial aviation, that length is workable, but relatively short, and aircraft arriving here must follow a precise descent path known as a 3-degree glide slope. It is a universal standard used at airports around the world, guiding pilots safely towards touchdown along a shallow, carefully calculated angle. At most airports, that invisible ramp carries aircraft over highways, empty land, or buffer zones before the runway begins. Here, that same ramp intersects directly with a public beach. Because the runway threshold begins immediately beyond the sand, the glide slope naturally brings aircraft low over Maho Beach. The approach angle does not change for spectacle. It is not lowered for effect. It is simply geography. The island's contours, the runway's placement, and the physics of flight combine to create an experience that feels extraordinary. Whether the aircraft is a wide-bodied jet from years past or one of the narrower, more fuel-efficient jets that are more common today, the approach remains essentially the same. The height above the beach varies only slightly. What changes is the impression it leaves on those below. In earlier years, larger aircraft such as Boeing 747s and Airbus A340s visited more frequently. Since Hurricane Irma struck in 2017 and reshaped both infrastructure and airline operations, traffic patterns have shifted, and narrow-body aircraft such as the Boeing 737 and Airbus A320 families now dominate most routes. The spectacle has evolved, but it has not disappeared, and neither has the crowd. By late morning, Maho Beach hums with a different kind of energy. Families spread towels near the waterline, couples wade into the shallows, and groups of friends gather with cameras poised. The mood is light, communal, almost celebratory. Just beyond the sand stands Sunset Bar and Grill, its painted walls and surfboard signs embodying an easy island charm. Music drifts outward into the sea breeze. Cold drinks slide across the counter, and travellers from across the world compare flight times and share stories beneath the sun. Mounted near the bar is a simple board listing daily arrivals and departures. Handwritten updates announce when the next aircraft is due, and visitors check it with the anticipation of theatregoers awaiting the next act. It feels like the sort of joy that only exists on holiday, when the warmth of the sun and the rhythm of the sea quietly persuade us that danger is somewhere far away. Then, out over the water, a faint outline begins to form against the blue. So gradual, at first you might mistake it for a distant bird or a trick of the light. Gradually it grows larger, resolving into wings, engines, and landing gear descending with calm precision towards the runway that lies just beyond the sand. No one seems alarmed. In fact, the opposite is true. People drift closer to the shoreline as the aircraft approaches, some shading their eyes against the sun, others raising their phones, not in panic but in anticipation. A few step forward into the shallows for a better angle. Friends call to one another and reposition themselves beneath the descending path, eager to frame the perfect photograph. With each passing arrival, the boldness grows. Visitors lift children onto their shoulders so they can stretch their arms towards the sky. Couples clasp hands and jump in unison as the aircraft crosses overhead, laughing as though they might brush the belly of the plane. Groups attempt playful acrobatics in the sand, handstands, mock leaps, exaggerated poses timed for the exact second the jet roars above them. Performances designed as much for social media as for memory. The approach itself remains steady and unhurried, almost graceful, and yet there is something quietly astonishing about watching an aircraft lower itself to such an intimate height above a public beach. By the time it crosses the shoreline, it is close enough to reveal details you rarely notice from the ground. The markings beneath the fuselage, the subtle adjustments of flaps along the wings. The sound deepens as it passes overhead. Not sharp, but enveloping, a rolling presence that presses gently through the air before trailing off towards the runway, leaving behind laughter, applause, and the shared exhilaration of having stood so close to something immense. For a few seconds, everyone shares the same expression, a blend of disbelief and delight, as though witnessing something both improbable and perfectly natural at the same time. It is the kind of moment that imprints itself instantly, the sort you recount later with a smile, still slightly amazed that it happened at all. That is the magic of Maho Beach. It feels safe, it feels exhilarating, it feels like something extraordinary unfolding in a place defined by ease. And it's also where danger quietly resides. Because in places shaped by warmth and beauty, something subtle happens to us. Sun, sea and sand have a way of softening our perception of risk. The heat relaxes the body, the rhythm of the water steadies the mind, and the idyllic setting reassures us that nothing truly harmful could intrude on a day so bright. In that gentle atmosphere, caution can feel unnecessary, even out of place. Some drift closer to the narrow road that separates the beach from the airport fence, edging nearer to the engines and the invisible blast they are about to unleash. Landing aircraft provide drama and noise, but it is during takeoff that the hidden power reveals itself. Before departure, pilots increase engine thrust dramatically in order to accelerate along the runway. Even modern narrow-body jets generate exhaust winds that can exceed hurricane-force speeds at close range. The jet blast is invisible, but its strength is not theoretical. It is measurable, physical, and capable of moving objects and people with alarming force. Warning signs are posted clearly along the fence, stating that jet blast can cause serious injury or death. The language is direct. The risk is not exaggerated. And yet the ritual persists. Visitors grip the fence deliberately, bracing themselves as engines spool up behind them. Some speak openly about wanting to be sandblasted, a term that has become part of the beach's folklore. In practical terms, sandblasting is exactly what it sounds like. When the jet engines release their thrust, loose sand from the beach is lifted into the air and driven at high speed towards anyone standing behind the aircraft. The particles sting against skin, whip through hair, and rattle against sunglasses and clothing, propelled by exhaust powerful enough to strip paint or erode surfaces over time. For some, enduring that blast has become a kind of challenge, a moment to prove resilience, to laugh in the face of the wind, to emerge coated in sand and exhilaration while friends cheer and record the spectacle. Sand erupts into the air in thick clouds. Clothing snaps violently. Bare feet struggle for grip against the pavement. Laughter turns into shouts that are quickly swallowed by the roar. In the filtered glow of holiday excitement, the experience feels daring but survivable, like an extreme attraction rather than a mechanical force governed by physics. And the wind that lifts an aircraft into the sky does not distinguish between runway and paradise. Over the years, there have been numerous injuries linked to the jet blasts at Maho Beach. Individuals have been thrown backward onto pavement. Some had suffered fractures, concussions, and deep abrasions. Others have been knocked into the roadway behind them. Debris, propelled by exhaust, has struck skin with surprising force. There is no comprehensive public tally of every incident, but reports from local authorities and repeated accounts paint a consistent picture. These are not isolated flukes, they are predictable outcomes when human curiosity meets mechanical force at close range. In 2012, tourists attempting stunts near the fence were injured after underestimating the thrust of departing engines. Similar incidents have surfaced periodically, often quietly, overshadowed by the viral videos that focus only on the thrill. Most who fall stand up again, shaken and bruised, their holiday interrupted but intact. But one did not. In July 2017, Gayleen McEwen, a 57-year-old mother of three and hotel owner from Blenheim, New Zealand, was enjoying a holiday on the island when she stood near the airport fence as a departing aircraft prepared for takeoff. Like many before her, she had positioned herself close to the runway threshold, where the blast from the engines is felt most intensely. As the pilots advanced the throttles and the engines spooled up to full power, the force of the exhaust struck with sudden, overwhelming strength. She was thrown backward, losing her footing almost instantly, and struck her head on the concrete surface behind her. Emergency services responded quickly and she was transported to hospital in critical condition. Despite medical treatment, she later died from her injuries. It is important to understand what did not happen that day. The aircraft never made contact with her. There was no mechanical failure, no deviation from procedure, no error in the cockpit. The jet performed exactly as it was engineered to do, generating the thrust required to carry hundreds of passengers safely into the sky. The tragedy did not arise from aviation malfunction. It arose from proximity to immense power. In the days that followed, the story travelled far beyond the island. For many, it was a sobering reminder that even in places defined by sunshine and celebration, the forces at work remain indifferent to mood or setting. The image of a turquoise beach, laughter in the background, and a fatal injury occurring within the same frame felt almost impossible to reconcile. Local authorities reiterated their warnings. Signs were reviewed. Conversations resurfaced about safety and responsibility. For a time, the mood around the fence shifted, tempered by fresh awareness. And yet, as weeks turned into months and seasons passed, the rhythm of the island reasserted itself. Visitors returned, cameras lifted again towards the sky. The spectacle continued. Because the memory of joy is powerful. The desire to stand where something extraordinary happens, to feel it, to document it, to carry it home as proof of having been there, can quietly blur the edges of caution. In the warmth of holiday light, risk can feel smaller than it truly is. Some assume that because the airport now sees fewer large wide-bodied jets than in decades past, the danger must be diminished. It is true that aircraft today are often smaller and more fuel efficient, but the approach path remains the same 3-degree glide slope. Aircraft still cross the beach at similar heights, and during departure even a Boeing 737 or an Airbus A320 produces more than enough thrust to unbalance a person standing too close. Size may change perception, but it does not alter the physics involved. What makes Maho Beach so compelling is not simply the plains, it is the setting. Caribbean invites relaxation. It encourages surrender to warmth and light. In such surroundings, we instinctively believe we are safe. Sunlight feels like reassurance. Laughter feels like protection. The ocean feels eternal and gentle. In that atmosphere, warnings can feel out of place, almost overly cautious. The mind adjusts its scale of risk to match the beauty of its surroundings, and that adjustment, however natural, can be dangerous. There is nothing wrong with loving Maho Beach. It remains one of the most extraordinary aviation viewing locations in the world. The shared gasp as an aircraft passes overhead, the camaraderie amongst strangers, the golden light of evening over sand and sea. These are moments worth remembering. But paradise does not suspend the laws of motion. The warning signs along the fence exist because the risk is real. The single confirmed fatality stands as a quiet testimony that even a holiday moment can turn in an instant when power is underestimated. Standing back on the sand, you still feel the rumble. You still see the belly of the aircraft pass overhead against a brilliant blue sky. You still capture the image that makes friends back home marvel. You simply do so with a deeper understanding. Maho Beach does not need to be feared, it needs to be respected. If wonder is balanced with awareness, this remarkable meeting of sky and sea can remain what it was always meant to be. Not a moment that results in disaster, but a memory of awe carried home in photographs and stories. There is nothing wrong with standing beneath something extraordinary. What matters is understanding the power behind the spectacle and choosing not to step beyond the line where exhilaration becomes risk. In that balance, Maho Beach remains what draws people there in the first place. A breathtaking intersection of engineering and nature, where warmth and wonder endure, and where, with care, the story ends not in headlines, but in joy. Now obviously this was a terrible tragedy because of the loss of life, and our condolences go out to the family of the lady who lost her life and to any friends who knew her. I think it illustrates how easily all of us can be seduced by paradise and sometimes let our guard down. I hope you like the way the information was presented in this video. I'll see you on the next one, and I'll say bye-bye for now.